Okay, that's your winter knitting. I'll be back in spring. Hi and welcome to Knit with Hannah. I'm Hannah, I'm here with Knitting Nurture to help you knit with ease, confidence and joy. And through winter. Doesn't that sound lovely? Oh, knitting through winter. Oh, it's so cosy, it's so comforting. It's just what knitting is made for. Knitting is made for winter. I love knitting all the year round, but wow, winter knitting just feels different. Now, we are still in November, but I don't know about you, it's starting to feel cold, and I'm starting to think, those frosts, there might still be leaves on the trees because we haven't had the major downpours or winds to actually remove all of them yet, but I'm very much recognising the Met Office recognises winter as December, January and February. That's in the UK, the UK Met Office, and honestly it feels like that. December can very much be wintry. So what I would suggest is that we recognise winter and say, okay, let's look at this season as a knitting season and how much it can give us. Last year we talked about knitting in December. I've also talked about winter knitting before. Let's really recognise the rest, the reflection, the relaxation and the creativity that we can get from knitting at this time of year. Winter is a time for slowing down. If you've ever read the book Wintering, you will understand it. I actually have a few books here that I would like to share with you as well, which you might find inspiration from. So first of all, quite obviously, there is Slow Knitting. I actually got this a couple of years ago. It's a lovely book. It talks about the seasonal idea of slow knitting through winter. A season by season guide, not just through winter, autumn, spring and summer as well. But this is another Hannah. I'm presenting more than a dozen projects and yarns to try that will inspire you throughout the year. So there are patterns all the way through this as well. And the idea is that it's a handmade year. And it's very thoughtful too, and looking at the idea of slow knitting. Go and have a look at, before I even realised this book was available, I made the video Slow Knitting a few years ago now. When was that? It might even be the beginning of 2020. Don't know. Can't remember. However, we also have Hygge. There's that book too. I love that. It's just a lovely reminder at this time of year to say, hang on, make sure you're cosy, you're hibernating, allow that to be part of your day. Slow productivity is, it's a lot more, let's put it out there, shall we? Cal Newport has masculine energy, but he is very slow as well. He recognises that productivity doesn't have to be go, 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 go. It does not have to be move, 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 move. Stitch after stitch after, get it faster, move, move, move. It's simplicity. It is about, in this he draws from deep research on the habits and mindsets of the various cast of storied thinkers. Galileo, Isaac Newton, Jane Austen, Georgia O'Keeffe. Key principles of slow productivity and more sustainable alternatives to the aimless overwhelm that defines our current life. So it's step-by-step advice, so do this, then do this, then do this. But it's very much a humane way of being rather than a computing. This is another book I love for slowing down and for feeling the actual creative spirit come into its own because of the rest that we've taken. That's what nature does. Winter is about saying, I need to rest. Let me let those seeds feel the ground around them. Let those seeds recognise where they are. They're in the dark. They need to rest. they need time before they truly germinate and sprout in the spring. Seeds come off the plants in the summer and the autumn. They need the cold to say, give me some time. But we need to rest, we need to hibernate, and we need that calm before the spring energy kind of goes, yay, the light's here, let's go for it, let's do this. So creative energy needs that too. And as we knit in winter, we are just saying, okay, look, okay world, give me some time, give me some peace, let me knit. Taking a breath. Collective sigh. Feel a bit more ready, less heady, a bit more ready for spring. Okay? That's what we're doing. We're taking that breath. This is a lovely book, Wintering. It's about one lady's experience through the winter of illness, actually. And she recounts her own journey through the winter, sparked by a sudden illness, and plunged her into a time of uncertainty and seclusion. When life felt most frozen, there you go, it's frozen, it's cold, she managed to find strength and inspiration from incredible wintering experiences of others. It's natural. People all over the world do this. And as we've moved into the digital landscape, computers, AIs don't recognise that you can take a break. I actually, believe it or not, I actually use an AI for part of my business. It's just generating information, not for these videos, don't worry. Just generating information that I don't need to be particularly involved in. It gives me little things like tags for YouTube videos, where normally I would sit there and go, oh, what am I doing? I need the SEO. But computers don't take a break. I can ask it to do something, and then 6 days later come and ask it to do something else, or 2 hours later ask it to come and do something else. However, it will think that no time has passed. It has dates and it has calendars all set up in its system, but no way does it recognise exactly what we're doing at what time. It just, that's it. There is no time for a break. It keeps working. Switch it off, switch it on, it's working again. So we, as human beings, as organic life forms, need to recognise we need these moments of rest. That's been a long ramble about winter, but I'm actually really pleased I've done it. I hope you've stuck with me, because we haven't talked about knitting yet. This is a time when nature slows down, so we are invited to do the same. That's it. We naturally do the same. It's a comforting, reflective winter purpose practice. And I mean, if you do want to go deeper into this, I am going to talk more about it. So don't worry, we're not finished yet. But if you do want to do this on a much deeper version of this, like me talking about this kind of thing over 3 weeks every single day, then the Winter Knitting Retreat is there. I created it 2 years ago. It's honestly one of my most favourite things that I've ever created, because it felt so true to knitting. It felt so real, and it felt so needed at the time. This is 2022 when I created it. Oh wow, was it needed. We'd had so much of the anxiousness and the worry and the I don't know energy in the world for the last 2 years, and we needed something as knitters to just say, I've been grounding, I've been doing my knitting, I've been allowing it. Let's find that cycle of winter knitting again. Let's do this. Let's allow that to really be slow. And not just say I'm slowing down during lockdown. Not just say I'm slowing down because I'm not allowed out of the house. The slowing down of the winter retreat, the winter knitting retreat, actually felt so right in that moment, and it feels so right every single winter. Do go and look at that. I'm going to leave the link below. That's just a side. Let's talk about knitting in winter now. Right. Let's embrace reflection. It's the 25th of November, so it's the 26th, I think. Yeah, 26th. Let's just invite a little bit of that reflection energy. We're moving into December, and we know that there's a completion to the year. And completion to the year says, actually, what have I done in 2024? If you're watching this next year or in many years to come, really put your own date in there and say, what have I done in the last 11 months, 12 months? How has it gone? What have I knitted? What have I learnt in my knitting? What have I done in my knitting that's really helped me as a person? All of those things. You can celebrate your knitting project. You can celebrate saying, actually, I can do cables now when it felt impossible in January. I recognise that I'm knitting in a community, not just with myself. I've found new people on YouTube to follow, and wow, have they inspired me. All of these things can be a big part of how you reflect as the beginning of your winter, because it can be really helpful with saying, actually, how do I want to move forward? And how do I want my winter rest to actually serve me in the form of me knitting? It can be such an important thing, such a helpful thing, to just say, where am I? I would suggest as well that you actually look at your current works in progress. What are you knitting at the moment? And what actually feels right at this time of year? Are you knitting a summer jumper that you just want to get done for next year, but every time you pick it up, it just doesn't feel right? Allow yourself to say, I'll pick that up in March. And I'm not going to feel guilty about it sitting and waiting for me. Put a notification in your calendar. When it feels light again, say the beginning of March, say, is it light enough to start knitting my summer jumper again? And you will just have that reminder to say, oh yeah, I need to get that out. Actually, I'm looking forward to spring. I'm going to feel wonderful wearing this in summer because I can finish knitting it now. Just recognise that maybe it doesn't feel right at the moment. Pick up the knitting that does feel right now. Pick up the knitting that is maybe a gift for someone, because we still have time to go before Christmas. Is maybe in wool, is in chunky yarn, is draped all over your lap because it's a large blanket, or a big jumper, one of those big oversized ones. One of those things that just sits there and covers you up and keeps you cosy while you're knitting. That just feels right. Knitting a winter jumper now is not a problem, even if you don't finish it until the middle of February, because you're going to have years and years and years to wear it. Do not feel at all that you have to say, oh, I can't start knitting one now because I'll not get a chance to wear it. You can. Most definitely you can. I haven't really got going on the knitting that I'm doing yet. The jumper that I want to knit. It's there, it's getting organised, it's getting ready. I do have other things to knit right now. I recognise that, but I'm so looking forward to that in the new year. I really am. As I'm not necessarily organising patterns and knitting for tutorials in a big way then, which is what I'm doing now. What I'm really looking forward to is actually getting on and knitting that jumper. It's going to feel so good over Christmas and in the new year. I may be able to wear it this winter. It may wait until next September. And actually, because it's a thin yarn and because it's wool, I may be able to knit it into the spring, wear it into the spring, and certainly when autumn first appears next year, because the lighter, thinner fabric will not only keep me warm in the winter, it will just give me an extra layer in the autumn without being too hot, because it will be breathable. Okay? So just remember that too. What is useful? What feels right to knit in winter? What feels right to knit now? And feel free to set aside anything that doesn't feel right. Okay, let's talk about restoration. That's what we hibernate for. That's what winter is. It's a healing time. And you can see that in the world around you. Like I said before, the seeds need time to just sit there, rest, prepare to then germinate and sprout in the spring. Dormant time of the seeds really gives them the time to then say, I'm germinating, I'm sprouting, I'm moving into growth. That's what we want too. So the restoration and the hibernation and the dormant time over winter for us can be a time, even when, now this is one thing that I loved, did it a few years ago in January. I just sat there in January and all I did was knit garter stitch scarves. I allowed the real, true ease of the garter stitch to be a big part of my knitting in January. Wow, did it feel good. That's all I needed. I didn't want anything else. I didn't want any complicated stitch patterns or anything with major colour work. All I wanted was ease, knit stitch, some beautiful stripes as I was going. That was enough. That's all I wanted. Didn't need any more. Thank you very much. And really consider that. If you're planning a project for January, how can you make sure that it aligns with that as well? The restorative nature of knitting can not just be in the fact that we're knitting, it can be what we're knitting at different times of the year. So consider that. When I was knitting last Christmas and last January, I was knitting the sashiko cowls that we did in the knit along this autumn. So it was these lovelies. I knitted this purple one in the summer for the tutorials. But then this one, it was what I was knitting over Christmas and January last year. And this one, it felt so rhythmic, so easeful. And the colours are beautifully wintry as well, aren't they? But it was just 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1. Stripe after stripe after stripe after stripe. The rhythm of it really let me get into that flow. And I really felt the beauty as well of the longer rows, because it let me rest into that. It let me say, we're knitting longer, we're knitting further. Every single stitch is getting us there. And that's exactly how winter feels sometimes. Nick, he struggles in January. He doesn't like the gloom, he doesn't like the grey, he doesn't like the feel that we're not there yet. January hasn't gone, we're not into February, where's the light? Those days are still dark, it hasn't worked yet. All of this winter solstice was supposed to bring it all back, but it hasn't done it, he hasn't done it. And there's no kind of excitement around Christmas or meeting family or anything like that. But he struggles with that. We both recognise that he always takes vitamin D and he makes sure he sees the light during the day. He doesn't want a light box. I've tried. But that just rhythm of it and saying, I'm resting in it. I'm not letting it be difficult. I'm not taking everything that little bit more complex. I'm just saying, okay, I can do this. It's easeful, it's restful, it's relaxing. I'm seeing the progress. I love the rhythm. Flow, flow, flow. And the more stitches and the more stitches and the more stitches and the more stitches. I loved it. It was such a perfect knit for winter. Such a perfect knit for winter. And I really enjoyed it. If you're a beginner knitter and you're going, how can you have that many stitches? How can you do colour knitting? You can do exactly the same thing, like I said, with garter stitch scarves. One row, another row, one row, another row. It feels restful. It feels rhythmic. It feels restorative because you're looking at all the stitches and those stitches are just moving. One at a time, one at a time, one at a time. Just like that. That's what we're after. You're going to hear me talk more about rhythm because I really want to move rhythm of knitting into our group, into our community that little bit more. It does feel like something that just has to be, because it becomes such a big thing. Like I mentioned actually this time last year in Knitting with Rhythm, something like that. I mentioned how I'd stopped knitting because of an illness and my hands had actually got sores all over them, so I couldn't knit. And then I felt like I needed to find that rhythm again. And the stitch. And the stitch. Honestly, as I was sat there, I felt my shoulders drop. It was wonderful. I loved it. It felt so good because that rhythm was so recognisable. It was so familiar. One, 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 one. One stitch, another stitch, another stitch, another stitch. This is the kind of conversations we get to in the membership. If you want long videos like this, go over to the membership. The YouTube membership, those videos can be long. Oh dear. Knitting really does this. And the restoration and the rest and the wintry feel of it. And it's probably why I've spoken for so long today, is because winter just has to be. It has to give. It needs to be slower. And I'm sure I've spoken actually more slowly in this video than I might usually. The winter feels slow. It feels restorative. I'm going to use those words again. It feels hibernating. It feels relaxing. There's that dormant energy that lets us just be with the stitches. Should we suggest, I will suggest, we actually get our knitting out now and knit. How can you feel that in your knitting today? Just once. Is it turning the sound off? Instead of audiobooks playing, you're just knitting. Instead of TV playing, you're just knitting. Is that it? Is it going out and sitting on a bench in the park and knitting? Is it letting nature around you just inspire you to slow down, just be with your knitting, be with your knitting, be with your knitting. Let it just be, one thing at a time. Okay. I am going to again invite you to the winter knitting retreat. Like I said, I made it a couple of years ago when it felt so right, and every time at this year, wow, it feels right again. This winter knitting retreat, we do nesting, we do hibernation, and we do nesting, hibernation, and nourishing, something like that. I can't remember. But over 3 weeks, we look at how we just slowly move into winter with our knitting. Every single day, you get a video. You can listen to the audio as well because I've separated them. If you'd rather just have the audio file, you can listen to that over on the courses site. So the video is there, or you can listen to the audio. Go for that if you want to. So yeah, a new video every single day of the winter knitting retreat. Go for that. You will have the inspiration, hopefully, I'm sure. People have told me that they have, to just rest, nourish, and hibernate, and really feel the winter coming into our knitting, the slowing down, and the restfulness, the comfort, and the cosy, and the hygge. Yeah. So that creativity can spring again in the spring. So we can all have winter energy. We can all do winter knitting, no matter what skill level you have, whether you're a brand new beginner or whether you're much more experienced. I've been knitting for many years with all of the different styles of knitting. Then anything in between, you can just embrace the slow, embrace each stitch, and feel what it feels like to be with your knitting. Okay. I'm not going to have anything else to talk about over the next 2 months, am I? Because I've just said it all there. Okay, that's your winter knitting. I'll be back in spring. Right. Thank you so much for being with me, and thank you so much for being here throughout this whole video. I will see you again soon. Bye for now. Happy knitting and happy winter knitting.